there.
Hi, gorgeous.
Hi, how are you doing today?
Beautiful. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. So, just to introduce everybody to what we have going on today, this is our weekly interviews. My name is Taylor Martin with Beauty Queens Galore, the pageant resource. And today we have with us Kataluna Enriquez, and she is a trailblazer, designer, title holder, and all of the above, all of these amazing things. Kataluna, thank you for being with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for the sweet words.
So today we just want to get to know you and get to know what brought you into pageantry and all of those different things. So let's start off by asking a fun question. What is your favorite phase of competition?
Sorry, can you repeat that one more time? Favorite.
Phase of competition.
Did you say face?
Phase of competition.
Oh, phase.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're fine.
Let's see. I really love state costumes competition just because you get to really see the culture and the spirit of a person and what they're bringing in the table, and it's art. So for me, anything arts is really amazing, and especially if you can contribute that into fashion, I think that's so amazing.
Yeah, it is. And you're a really artistic person, which we'll get into a little bit later. But I want to backtrack a little bit. So tell us a little bit how you got into pageantry. What made you want to compete and all of that?
Yeah, so if a lot of people don't know, but I am a trans person or a trans woman, and I started competing in trans pageantry at first in 2015. And at that time, my goal with pageantry was just to just enjoy it, to try something new, to challenge myself. And in that process, I've learned to use my voice and to use my platform, to use my story and make it beneficial for other people as well.
Oh, that's really good. What's some ways that you've been able to do that, and how have you felt like you've been able to make an impact through pageantry?
And so I started my campaign, #BeVisible, which is a campaign encouraging people to live their authentic lives and being vulnerable to combat hate. I think one of the things that people often have an understanding with when it comes to vulnerability is people try to take advantage of that and dehumanize us or sometimes belittle us when we are vulnerable to other people. But in reality, our vulnerability is what makes us powerful. It's what makes us connect as people. It kind of what normalizes us that we're all human and that we all go through so many things, and that when we share that story of us or that part of us, it normalizes things and we can create a conversation through that.
Yeah, and you've been very vulnerable throughout your entire reign so far, and I'm very excited to see how you continue to do that. One of the most amazing things about you winning Miss Nevada USA was that it was during Pride Month. So can you tell me a little bit about how that felt and how rewarding that was?
Yeah, because in that month, I was just so busy that I kind of almost forgot that it was Pride Month. And it kind of just worked out for me because of the evening gown. The evening gown, which is actually, that gown was supposed to be just for promo, because it's Pride Month and I wanted to celebrate and put contents out there. And then when I was working on it, I was like, well, this could actually work for me. And I like how it looked. And I just made it stage ready. And it was so important for me because also Nevada is rated as the number one state for LGBTQ plus communities. And to me, to be able to represent that and win in that moment, it's not just a highlight of the state, but also a highlight of our community and the people that make it an impact to make sure that everyone is living a good life, a life where everyone can prosper and can thrive and can live authentically.
That is amazing. That was one thing that I really love that you were able to win during Pride Month, and also your dress, absolutely beautiful. We love that you are not only a pageant queen but a designer, and we heard a little bit about your infamous $60 sewing machine. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I still have the same sewing machine that I had since when I went to college, and that was like a $60 machine that my aunt got as a gift for me during a Black Friday event, I believe. And I used that since high school, and I've used that in all my competitions to make the gowns that I've wore. And ever since, I never wore any other dress except something that I made. I'm actually doing the same thing for this year's Miss USA, and I can't wait for everyone to see it.
Oh, that is amazing. I think that's going to give you a lot of exposure for your business. And
And
can you
I
tell us
like,
can you tell us a little bit about what it's like being a designer and being able to design your own gowns and also gowns for other people? Like, what is the creative process behind that?
my mentality and my process is always about embracing the body rather than covering it. Oftentimes, I feel like a lot of designers would like to just design to make a beautiful dress, but for me, I love to design to enhance the beauty of a person, to show their personality, and to really embrace who they are. So in my process, I've always include and make sure that I'm using the body as not necessarily as a mannequin, but rather the person you're going to be in. And really depending on the person, I find inspiration from anywhere. If you look at my phone and my Instagram content, it's usually just everything that I've saved is all dresses from a lot of designers and everything that inspires me.
Do you have a favorite piece that you've created?
So far, it always changes. I always make something new, and the gown that I'm going to be wearing for preliminary is one of the things I'm really looking forward to.
That's really exciting. We can't wait to see that. So, speaking of Miss USA, we're so excited to see your gown. But speaking of Miss USA, what does your day-to-day prep look like? Like, what does a basic day of training and preparing for Miss USA look like for you?
It's a little different for me because I obviously I made my stuff, I make my own stuff, and so I have to take time and reserve a little bit of that. But mental health is also really important for me, and so I try to just focus on that and making sure that I have a strong foundation of self-love and worthy in knowing that I am enough, especially in this month and the coming weeks of Miss USA, because I know that if I can get an award for the most hated contestant, I will receive that. But I'm okay with that. If anything, it makes me stronger, and it's part of life. And so if you really build a strong foundation of self-love and well-being, then I think you can say anything that you want about me, and I'm still gonna go for it. I'm unstoppable.
That's really inspirational. As some, like you said, that was a really tough sentiment that you said you might be one of the most hated, but it speaks to how you're able to control negative comments and your own self-love. So how can you give advice to somebody who's being bullied or somebody who may be feeling that from the pageant community or just anybody in general?
Yeah, so I've received so many comments since I was really young. Ever since the moment that I was able to speak, I was attacked, I was discriminated, so many things. But one of the things that I've learned at a young age is that regardless of what you do and how you change yourself, you will never please everyone. And so it's important to live your life and be true to yourself. And that's why I also started my campaign, hashtag Be Visible, to live your authentic self and not be ashamed of that. And there's that one quote, I keep forgetting what it actually says, but the quote is, in a world where you can be so many things, be you.
That is amazing, and it helps to see somebody who is a triple minority, you're a woman of color and transgender, all of that amazing. You're able to sustain that self-love and really realize that being you is the only way to be. So that
Absolutely.
is, yeah, and I applaud you for that. One of the things that I want to ask you is what is one of the biggest lessons that you've learned in pageantry?
Ooh, good question. There's so many things. I think that would just be really just tell yourself. There's so many women out there and so many people who are as great and who are so impactful and inspirational as well. But they all go through different chapters and different paths in life, and you do as well. And it's important that you share that because you never know whose life you're going to inspire, or might connect to your story. And for me, I may not connect to every single one, but I know that I can change someone's lives out there by just being true to myself.
Absolutely. And one thing that I take from that is a lot of us deal with comparison in pageantry, and that really speaks to what you were talking about. So, how would you talk somebody through comparison, especially a title holder? Because during pageant week, it's really hard for us not to compare ourselves to all of these other women who have been working just as hard as us for the same title.
You know, I always just compliment everyone, because everyone, especially women, because we all deserve it. We all work hard, and we live in a world where we are denied opportunities, and for many reasons, for our bodies, for who we are, and that's not what I stand for. And so I just try to give compliments and encourage everyone as much as possible, and try to comfort them if they're feeling a certain way.
I think that's a good way to stay in a good headspace during the week. So that's great advice.
Yeah.
What is one thing that you think pageantry stands for today?
Defining your own standards. My goal is representation, but also to define my own standards. I'm tired of the standards of limitations that we put on in society for people. I believe that everyone should be given the chance to be their best selves, and you can't do that when you're constantly compromising yourself.
Mm-hmm. And I think that has a lot to do with your Be Visible campaign. Everything that you're saying is just really drawing back into that. So can you tell us a little bit more about that, what you've done with it, and also how we can get involved?
So I always share my story in social media, and I started and just be vulnerable about it. I've been through so many things, from bullying, being a survivor of physical and sexual abuse, not having much growing up. Mm-hmm. And I share all this because of one thing. When I was young, I was very, very angry. I was just angry at the world, and I didn't understand why, but I think that was because I've always felt so lonely, and I never felt anyone connected to my life or to who I am. And me being visible is me standing up for myself and being the person that I needed when I was young.
That's really good, because a lot of young women, they need that role model, because some of us didn't have that when we were growing up. So that's amazing that you're doing that for young women, and even anybody of a young age that needs to build that self-confidence and sustainability from the ground up. So we want to talk to you a little bit about mental health. You talked about mental health and how that's really big for you. So that ties into competing, like rituals backstage that you do to relax and all of that. So how do you stay in a good headspace as far as your mental health goes when you're like about to walk on stage or before interview or any phase of competition?
I always hype myself. So in my head, I grew up in the hood. So in my head, I'm hyping myself in the hood version. I can't say it because sometimes it's not the best words to use, but in my head, I say it.
That is so, I love that, because we all need to have like our little affirmations that we say in our head. So yeah. What is an affirmation that you can give us that we might be able to say in our head?
Oh, again, I grew up in the hood, so in my head, I'm like, V, you are enough. And I always listen to one song too when I'm about to do interviews, or if I can get on stage and listen to something. I listen to Fantasia's I Believe.
Oh, that's amazing that you have a song you listen to. I think that's something that a lot of pageant girls should pick up if you don't have a song to listen to before an interview, because it calms you down. Mm-hmm. And speaking of interview, what is one of the hardest questions that you've ever been asked, or maybe one question that's made you be the most vulnerable?
That's hard because I'm always just very vulnerable in all my interviews. I would say one of the questions that I still struggle is defining my own womanhood, because a lot of people have a definition of that, and sometimes people throw the idea of biological and having a period and being able to give birth, and that's something that I can't do, but that doesn't take me away from being a woman. I've lived my life and experienced and been discriminated as a woman. And that's still something that I struggle, not necessarily the answer, but more of I am mindful of what I say, because I don't want to be hurtful to anyone or to disregard or invalidate someone else's feelings or their experience as a woman as well.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I'm seeing a lot of grace from your personality. You have a very graceful personality, which I applaud you for.
Thank
And
you.
I want to ask you, what's some advice that you would give to somebody that's struggling with bullying and also struggling with being graceful toward people who have torn them down or who don't want to see them do anything but fail?
I love this quote from, I believe it's Oprah. And it says, oh, I forgot what it is. But it says something along the line, hate has done so many things in life, but uh, has never, something like that. It has never solved anything, something like that. Look it up.
Okay.
But I need to look it up too as well. But really, there's no point of hating another person. We all live in a world where we can be ourselves and express love. Why throw hate when you can show love and give love?
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing, and it's sometimes really hard to be graceful toward people that aren't showing you love. But when you think about it from that mindset, it makes it a little bit easier. So that's
And also,
great.
one of the things that I learned is that sometimes the way people respond to you is not necessarily how they view you, but how they view themselves.
Mm, wow, that's good right there. That's like a quote. Somebody needs to put that in a quote and put your name after it. So let's talk about something that you are passionate about. What is something you're passionate about that we haven't talked about yet? Something that people may not know about you.
Ooh, great question. I throw it out there as I feel like I've exposed my entire life. I love traveling. I love learning languages. I love exploring. So exploring in many terms of like cooking, culture, languages, history. I love learning my indigenous history as well.
That's amazing, and you're just so many different facets. So amazing. I love that about you. We talked a little bit earlier about how you're so many things. You are a trailblazer. You're a pageant title holder, a healthcare administrator, a designer. How on earth do you stay on track doing all of that?
It's tough, girl. I really just try to prioritize what's important. For now, I'm prioritizing obviously preparing for Miss USA. Uh, Opportunities will always come, and I think you need to prioritize what's important for you. And at the end of the day, what is going to make you happy? What is going to make you feel content? And I try to really just focus on those aspects and prioritize those before I do anything else.
That's a really good thing to focus on one thing at a time. And right now, we are focusing on Miss USA, which is amazing. And I know a little bit beforehand, you were a healthcare administrator. So can you tell us a little bit about that and what day to day looks like for you?
Yeah, so I worked as a healthcare admin that specializes in LGBTQ plus care. I stopped for a little bit. Right now, I'm focusing on mental health with Koi Works, whose goal is to provide accessible and affordable healthcare services. Mental health services to diverse communities, especially for people who don't have access to mental health. Day to day is different because I work with people, minorities, people who struggled with trauma, people who don't have access to basic human health care. And it really depends on day to day. Sometimes I have someone who is asking for home shelter, for food. Sometimes I have people asking for mental health services. So it really depends on the day.
Well, that's absolutely amazing that you did it for the LGBTQ community, and that you're working with mental health as well. Because mental health reform and making sure that everybody has the access to those services is really important. So thank you for your work and your service.
Mental health is so important because it's often treated as, there's still a huge stigma about it, and it's often treated as a privilege for so many people. But I think mental health should be accessible for everyone. It's a basic human need. But I think that everyone should have access to it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. and I want to switch gears for a little bit and do something a little bit more fun.
Yes.
So we're going to play a game of this or that, where I'll give you two options and you tell me which one and your reason why. Sound good? All right. So we're gonna go with swimsuit or evening gown.
Evening gown.
Evening gown. Okay. Why?
Swimsuit was terrifying for me. It is. I just feel so weird sometimes just going out there and just showing off my body. So I definitely would go with evening gown. Plus, you get to show your personality for me in evening gown a lot more.
And before we go on to the next one, I want to talk on the swimsuit thing that you said, because I personally have felt that way a little bit about swimsuit as well. And I know I'm not the only person that has. So can you give some advice on somebody that hasn't even competed in swimsuit yet, that's worried about it? That's the reason why they haven't. They're like, it's weird getting on stage in a swimsuit. Like, what's some advice for that?
The thing about me is the thing that I struggle about is not necessarily the swimsuit, but comparing my body to other people. And I just had to remind myself that I'm different, that I was born different, but different is a blessing for me. It's what brought me here. And so I just have to embrace my body for what it is and get out there. Show the world my body is also beautiful and set a standard.
Yes, absolutely amazing. Being different is just the way to go, and got to embrace your body for what it is. So that's great advice for that. The next one I have is sneakers or stilettos.
There's stilettos.
I agree with that one. Blush or bronzer?
Blush.
Okay, yeah, I love a good blush, and your makeup is really pretty today too.
Yours is too. I keep staring at it.
Thank you so much. Let's see, nude or red lipstick?
Ooh, I would go nude.
Nude. Nice and trendy. Long or short nails?
I would go short, just because I model as well, and we're kind of just always on the go, and sometimes we just short nails.
I'll do one more. Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Chocolate. Okay, cool. So one of the last questions that we want to ask you today is, what's something that you want to be remembered for?
Ooh, I want to be remembered for the person who made so much impact on one's life, who made a change, positive change, made someone feel visible. Because growing up, I always felt like I couldn't find anyone, and I felt so alone, and I felt so unrepresented. So if I could change someone's life and make sure that they have that chance to feel visible, to feel that they are okay and that they are enough, and validate them for their existence, and that would be the legacy that I want to leave.
I think that you're on the right track for creating that legacy. You're doing an amazing job. So how can we reach out to you? What is the way that we can reach out to you? How can we follow you and keep up with you on your journey to Miss USA?
Yeah, so you can always message me on my personal account on Instagram. That's usually where I'm at. Miss Kataluna, MSKATALUNA, or the Miss Nevada account, Miss NV USA.
Amazing. So thank you so much for sitting down and talking with us today. You are absolutely beautiful and have such a graceful personality, and I absolutely admire that about you. We are rooting for you here at Beauty Queens Galore, and we wish you well on your journey.
Thank you so much. Thank you for doing this, and thank you for having a conversation with me. You're beautiful, and I can't wait to talk to you again.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.